was 39 when I realized I was no longer young. It didn't come with a gray hair or an aching knee. Those had been around for a while. No, it came quietly, like fog rolling in through the trees one morning. I remember standing at the sink, brushing my teeth when it hit me. I had become someone I used to look up to, and not always for the right reasons. I had spent most of my 30s chasing things. Titles, recognition, approval. The kind of success that looks good in photos but feels hollow when you're lying awake at 2 a.m. I thought I had time. Time to figure it out. Time to fix things. But 40 was close enough that I could feel it breathing on my neck. And I wasn't ready. See, no one really warns you about this age. Everyone talks about your 20s, all the freedom and mistakes and reckless adventure. They talk about your 60s, the slowing down, the retirement, the grandkids. But your late 30s, that's where the quiet wars happen. The ones people don't post about. You start noticing who stayed and who left. Friends you thought you'd grow old with become names in group chats you don't check anymore. Some moved across the country, others just moved on. And that stings, not because they're gone, but because you realize how much of yourself you gave to people who no longer remember your birthday. But the loneliest part wasn't losing others. It was losing pieces of myself I didn't even know I'd traded. There was a time I'd write poems on the back of receipts while waiting in line. Time I'd walk home just to feel the air. I stopped doing those things, not because I outgrew them, but because I convinced myself they didn't matter, that they weren't productive. That's the thing about your 30s. The world tells you to be a machine, and you believe it, until the machine starts breaking. I wish someone had told me then, it's okay to be tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep cures, but the kind that seeps into your soul. The tired of pretending, of performing, of keeping up. I was tired of being fine. I remember one night, sitting alone on the floor of my apartment, surrounded by boxes I never unpacked. I had just left a job that paid well but drained me dry. No backup plan. No applause. Just silence and a very loud fridge humming in the background. I thought I was a failure. But you know what I see now, looking back from 80? That was the moment I started becoming real again. There's a kind of beauty in breaking. Not dramatic, not poetic, just quietly honest. You stop lying to yourself. You stop pretending you like the life you've built just because it looks good on paper. You finally ask yourself, what if I want something else? It's not too late at 39. It's just loud. The voices in your head scream things like, you should have figured this out by now. Everyone else has their life together. It's embarrassing to start over. But those voices are cowards. They echo all the fears we've swallowed since we were 10. And they only grow louder when you're on the edge of something honest. I wish someone had told me that envy is just grief in disguise. When I saw others with the house, the family, the career that looked so stable, I wasn't jealous of what they had. I was mourning the version of me that never got there. I was grieving what I thought I was supposed to become. And that's okay. Grief isn't just for funerals. Sometimes it's for the life you didn't live, the paths you didn't take, the chances you didn't know you were missing until it was too late. But let me tell you something from where I am now. 80, creaky, and surprisingly content. Not all closed doors were meant to be opened. Some of them protected you from rooms that would have swallowed you whole. Back then, I thought the universe was cruel. Now I think, maybe it was just careful. People say you need clarity to move forward. I don't believe that anymore. What you really need is courage. The kind that lets you move even when everything's blurry. The kind that walks into the unknown with shaking hands and says, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm still going. If I could go back to that younger version of me, sitting on the floor with the hum of the fridge and no clue what comes next, I wouldn't give him a map. I'd give him a chair. I'd sit with him in the silence and let him cry if he needed to. I'd tell him he wasn't broken, just in between chapters. And I'd tell him softly that it's okay to rest. You're not behind. You're just human. And humans, we don't bloom on schedule. There's something strange that happens around 40. You stop running toward life and start running from time. I didn't notice it at first. Crept in quietly. Like the way your favorite shirt doesn't fit quite right anymore, or how the music you once loved starts to feel like noise. You glance in the mirror and think, I used to look different. And then, a beat later, I used to feel different. No one tells you how haunting it is to look at your life and not recognize it. Not in the tragic way, just in the hollow way. Like living in a house where the furniture's been rearranged by someone else. At that age, I started measuring my days in shoulds. I should be farther along. I should have more saved. I should have made better choices. I thought regret would feel loud, like banging on a door you didn't get to open. But at 39, regret felt more like a quiet passenger, sitting beside me at red lights, following me through grocery aisles. A subtle ache behind the eyes, not sharp enough to cry over, but always there. And in all that should-ng and aching, I forgot how to be kind to myself. I pushed myself hard, mentally, emotionally. I tried to overcompensate for everything I thought I lacked. If I couldn't be happy, at least I could be productive. If I wasn't successful, at least I could seem useful. I called it ambition, but really it was just fear wearing a tie. You know what no one really tells you before 40? That rest isn't laziness. That softness isn't weakness. That stillness isn't stagnation. I wish someone had grabbed my shoulders back then and whispered, "You don't have to earn your right to be gentle," because I was hard on myself, on others, on the world. And all it did was make me tired. Not the kind of tired you nap away. The kind that hardens your voice and steals the warmth from your eyes. I missed moments because I was too busy proving I deserved them. Dinner with friends, where I smiled but never truly arrived. Walks through neighborhoods I didn't notice because I was in my head rehearsing conversations that would never happen. I thought life was a ladder, and if I just climbed high enough, it would finally feel okay. But peace isn't at the top. It's in the pauses. It's in watching your kid fall asleep on the couch without waking them. It's in standing barefoot on cold kitchen tile at 2 a.m., sipping water and listening to the hum of the world settling down. It's in letting someone love you, even when you feel you don't deserve it, and choosing not to run. I didn't know how to stay, back then. Not really. I stayed in jobs, in cities, in routines, but I didn't know how to stay in my own skin. I was always waiting for a better version of me to arrive. But now, from where I sit, 80 winters later, I see things clearer. That version never arrives. You don't become her or him or them. You become you, just slowly, painfully, beautifully, unevenly. If I could tell that younger me one thing, it wouldn't be some grand revelation. It would just be this: your life doesn't have to look impressive to be meaningful. No one remembers your salary. They remember how you made them feel when their world was falling apart. They remember if you called back. They remember if you showed up without being asked. The older I get, the more I think meaning lives in the quiet things we do without applause. When I think of the people I miss most from my younger years, it's not the loud ones. It's not the ones with the big jobs or shiny resumes. It's the ones who made space for others. The ones who listened without interrupting. The ones who let their eyes soften when they looked at you. I wish someone had told me that before 40, that the race isn't real, that most people are scared too, just hiding it better, that healing is messy and non-linear, and sometimes the strongest thing you can do is sit still and let the hurt speak. And if you're still here, reading this, maybe some of these words feel like your own. Maybe you're sitting in the middle of your life wondering if you missed something important. You didn't. Sometimes the most honest lives are the ones that look nothing like we imagined. Sometimes the deepest peace grows in the cracks we tried so hard to cover. And sometimes, the best thing you can do is simply begin again, with gentler hands, quieter hope, and fewer expectations. If you're still here, leave me a comment. Tell me what part of this made you pause. Tell me what you wish someone had told you too. I'll be reading. Always. I used to think love would be the answer. That once I found the one, the noise would settle, and the questions would stop knocking on the inside of my chest. And for a little while, I believed it. She was soft-spoken, the kind of woman who didn't need the room to notice her, because the room felt different when she was in it. We met when I was 34, fell fast, moved faster, and suddenly, I had someone to share Sundays with. Not the flashy parts, but the quiet in-between. But here's what no one told me about love before 40. It doesn't fix what you refuse to face. For a time, I buried my fears beneath her warmth. My insecurities were quieter with her hand in mine. I mistook comfort for healing. I thought if someone saw good in me, then maybe the broken parts weren't real. But broken doesn't disappear just because it's ignored. It waits, patiently. One night, we argued about something small, toothpaste or takeout, I don't even remember, and I said something sharp. Something that came from a wound, not from truth. I saw her flinch. Not because I was loud, but because I was cruel. That's when it hit me. I was waiting for someone else to carry what I wouldn't name. My sadness, my shame, my sense of not enough. I expected her to fill the holes I hadn't even tried to patch. And when she couldn't, I blamed her. Quietly, passively. But I did. Love is not a repair shop. And no person, no matter how gentle, can fix a heart we won't hand over. We didn't last. Not because we didn't care, but because care isn't enough when two people are quietly drowning in their own unspoken fears. I spent years trying to make that loss mean something less than it did. I called it timing. I called it incompatibility. But the truth is, I hadn't learned how to love yet. Not truly. Not in the way that takes responsibility for the mess I bring, the pain I carry, the ways I sometimes pull away when I most need closeness. Looking back, I wish someone had told me that love after 30 isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about learning how to be safe in your own skin, so you don't hand someone else the job of building it for you. And that kind of safety takes time, takes failure, takes a long, slow honesty that doesn't come in your 20s, and sometimes doesn't show up until your 40s or later. You don't learn to love by falling in love. You learn by staying, through the uncomfortable truths, through the rewiring of old wounds, through the terrifying act of letting someone see you cry without apologizing. And you learn by losing. I had to lose a few good people before I stopped thinking of love as proof I was worthy. Love isn't a reward for having your life together. Sometimes it's just two people standing in the middle of their wreckage, choosing not to run. And if no one's told you lately, you can be loved even if you're a mess. You can be loved even if you don't have a 5-year plan. Even if you're still flinching from ghosts no one else sees. But you have to let it in. And more importantly, you have to believe you deserve it. There was a moment years after we ended, when I found an old photo of us. We were standing on a bridge in early spring. I had forgotten how bright her smile was. And in that moment, I didn't feel regret. I felt grateful. Grateful that I had known a love that showed me what I still needed to heal. Grateful that I had messed up just enough to realize I didn't want to keep hurting people. Grateful that life gave me another chance. Not necessarily to love again, but to love better. That's the thing they don't tell you about your late 30s. It's not about finding the one. It's about becoming someone who can hold love without crushing it. Someone who can sit in discomfort and stay. Someone who stops trying to perform and just lets themselves be known. And sometimes, it's about forgiving yourself for the people you couldn't love well, when you didn't know how. You're not a failure if it didn't last. You're not broken if you're still figuring out what love is supposed to feel like. You're human, tender, and still learning. Always learning. There was a stretch of time, somewhere around 38, when I measured my worth in numbers. Bank balance, credit score, how many unread emails I had, the square footage of my apartment, the weight on the scale, even the number of hours I worked each week like exhaustion was some badge of honor. I thought that was maturity, keeping track of everything, staying on top of things. But really, it was fear. Fear of being left behind. Fear that if I stopped producing, stopped striving, the world would forget me. That's a funny thing, isn't it? The world forgets everyone eventually. But we live like being remembered is the prize. No one told me that enough would never feel like enough if I didn't first believe that I was enough. I wish someone had warned me how easily life becomes performance. You smile at the office, shake hands a little too firmly, nod through meetings where nothing's being said. You keep a calendar so full you don't have to face your thoughts. You call it discipline. But in the quiet moments, when the screens are off and the door is closed, you feel hollow. That's when I realized I wasn't building a life. I was maintaining an image. And that image was exhausting me. I remember one night vividly. It was raining. Not the dramatic kind, soft, steady drizzle. I had just wrapped a long week at work, and I sat in the driver's seat of my car, engine off, hands on the wheel, for over an hour, just sitting there. I didn't want to go inside, not because anything was wrong, but because nothing felt real. It hit me then. I was living like I was waiting for permission. Permission to rest, to slow down, to be something other than productive. You know what I learned slowly through mistakes and breakdowns? You don't have to earn your right to peace. You don't have to prove your worth by burning out. No one's keeping score the way you think they are. The people who love you, they don't care what your resume says. They care if you're present, if your laughter still has softness in it, if your eyes still light up at sunsets and old songs. And I wish someone had told me that your body keeps receipts. All those late nights, the skipped meals, the stress you swallow because you can't afford to break. Your body remembers. It stores it in your shoulders, your gut, your breath, until one day you wake up and everything hurts. And not just your back. Your heart aches from years of disconnection. Burnout isn't just physical. It's spiritual. It's the soul's way of saying, I've been whispering for years, and you never listened. I didn't listen. Not at first. I thought I was just getting older, that maybe I wasn't cut out for more. But the truth was, I had betrayed myself, slowly, politely, in ways that seemed logical at the time. I stopped reading books that made me feel wonder. I stopped cooking for joy and started eating for speed. I stopped calling friends unless I had a reason. That kind of life, it dries you out, slowly, until you don't even notice you're thirsty. I remember the shift when it came. It wasn't dramatic. It started with a walk, a slow one, no phone, just me, the breeze, and the rhythm of my own feet. I felt something I hadn't in years, presence. And in that moment, I didn't feel like I was running out of time. I just was alive, still here, still breathing. I started collecting those moments like breadcrumbs. A smile from a stranger, the warmth of coffee on a cold morning, the sound of rain against the window while I read an old book. They didn't change my career, or my savings, or my list of accomplishments, but they brought me back to myself. Back then, I thought purpose had to be big, a mission, a legacy. But now I think purpose is much smaller, quieter. Purpose is choosing softness over speed. Calling your sister just to say hi. Planting something even if it never blooms. It's refusing to live only in the future. And forgiving the versions of yourself that didn't know better. I wish someone had told me, your value isn't in what you do. It's in who you are when no one's watching. And the moment you believe that, really believe it, life stops being a race and starts becoming a garden. There was a year, I think I was 40, maybe just past it, when I stopped trying to be extraordinary. Not because I gave up, but because I finally saw the beauty in being ordinary deeply and fully. I had spent years trying to prove I mattered, trying to stand out, trying to be remembered. But at some point, after the noise had settled, I found something I hadn't expected. I liked who I was when no one was watching. I liked my quiet coffee in the morning, the way I folded laundry while humming old hymns my mother used to sing. I liked watering my plants, even when they died. I liked the quiet satisfaction of finishing a book I'd started 3 years ago. That kind of peace, it doesn't arrive in a flash. It grows, slowly, like moss, soft, patient, and unstoppable once it finds the right surface. Looking back now, I realize I didn't need more time. I needed more presence. There were entire seasons of my life I barely remember. Not because they weren't important, but because I wasn't there. I was lost in thought, lost in comparison, lost in chasing a version of success that was never mine to begin with. And yet, even in that mess, even in all that stumbling, life held me gently. I made mistakes. I hurt people, some I loved dearly. I took too long to say sorry. I waited too long to say I love you. But life kept offering me new mornings, new sunrises I didn't earn, new chances to soften, to return. If you're standing at that threshold, staring down 40 like it's a verdict, let me offer you this. It's not too late. It never was. You can start again. You can put down the weight you were never meant to carry. You can choose kindness, even if you were raised on shame. You can rest, even if the world tells you rest must be earned. And perhaps most of all, you can forgive yourself for not being who you thought you'd be, for the wrong turns, the wasted time, the words you wish you'd said sooner. You can lay it down, and you can walk forward lighter. That's what I learned slowly, stubbornly, beautifully. In the years that followed 40, your life doesn't begin once you've fixed everything. It begins when you stop waiting to be fixed. It begins when you start being kind to the version of you that's still learning, still healing, still unsure, still trying. You don't need a grand plan. You just need the courage to keep showing up, even when you're scared, even when the path is foggy, even when you feel like you're the only one stumbling. Because here's the truth no one told me, the one I carry closest to my chest now. Peace doesn't come when everything is finished. It comes when you realize nothing ever is. And that's not a flaw in the design. It's the invitation to be a little gentler, to love a little deeper, to laugh without asking permission, to cry without shame, to hold hands longer, to leave the dishes in the sink once in a while, to live not for legacy, but for the next breath. If you've made it this far, I'm grateful for your company. There's a lot of noise out there, but you chose to sit with an old man's story, and I don't take that lightly. If you'd like to return, you know where to find me. This space doesn't go anywhere. It waits quietly like all the best things do. Until next time, be good to yourself. You're the only you we've got.